Welcome. I am Crimey Queen. If you're joining us for the first time, this is the channel where we have fun with words and numbers, numerology to be precise. This is where we are actualizing self-full love by learning or familiarizing ourselves with words and numbers and seeing how they impact our lives, but from a spiritual standpoint. In the sense, when we say spiritual, biblical. Okay. Biblical stories, particularly that which surrounds the sacrifice of Christ and the Last Supper. So, if you're new to this channel, we have devised a template that by which we try and make sense of our world. Okay, this is Mother Eve, and this is opening the third eye because we believe that all the stories, well, most of the stories around the scriptures is really a teaching that serves a sort of wisdom in how we can actualize self-full love by having our third eye open. And so I said, well, most of the stories in that, for instance, Cain and Abel, or Moses and Pharaoh, Joseph at Pharaoh. So it's really about um, having the third eye open, that you are able to see and operate from higher dimensions. And perhaps that's what, of course, it was with Joseph. And of course, the story of Moses and Pharaoh with having the two snakes is very symbolical of having the Kundalini activated. This is how I see it. Okay. Now, okay, if you're new to this, this is the template. As I said, this is where we are believing that we are um, designed to ultimately be right here. When we say ultimately be, there are different dimensions, but I'm looking at this as a fifth dimension. It's like getting us to open our third eye. This is where Mother Eve ate of the fruit. The word ate equals five, and the mouth equals five, which is in direct correlation with Mother Eve. And of course, the nostrils being activated. And it is said, and God breathed in man's nostrils. Man's nostrils. Of course, we know woman and man, but we are seeing there's the other scriptures that also tells you that Eve is in everything, or was in everything, meaning that Adam named his wife Eve, his wife. That's another word I think which is very important to look at, because I think wife means three, has a three vibration, which would mean that that would be what the vibration. Let's look at wife. And I like the F here because I have done a presentation on the F, which I feel that that's what, the F is the face. Okay, so this is 95965. Okay, so that's 11, and 9 is 20, and 5, 25. So the wife is 7. That's interesting. The wife is 7, and that means it's the function of God creating man in 6 days, and on the seventh day we are seven, of course, because we embody this, the resonance or elements or whatever it is of that 6 day of creation and the day of rest. Okay, so anyway, this is Mother Eve. Mother Eve equals 5, and we are told that we are dots, but the I am that I am, the dots, actually equals 13. And so we have seen how 13 is also 2. And we also see how 2 is being very symbolical and significant as in the sacrifice of Christ. There, the B is really that bond Christ created with his disciples. So the B is really 13. And we see how 13 here is 2, and it also comes under the column of 6 here, which we are. All right. So, what I did want to really express here is the second verse, just to conclude on the second verse of the of Genesis of chapter 1. And God looked upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the waters. Yes, got it. And so we have seen my notion and my intuition tells me that the second word here expresses or reflects every aspect of that numerical value that God had created. So the word created with the word et, like eight, the number eight, the number three, there are certain words that have had certain vibrations that have repeated, the vibrations have been repeated in that word, which shows, or in that verse, which shows how the the relationship or harmony or partnership or vibrations with the two gods that I feel, with the two gods had taken place. I say two gods in the sense of the waters as Eve, as the goddess or God, Mother God, however you want to term it, and the God whose spirit moved upon the face of the deep. So I am believing that that verse of the second verse of the first chapter holds a lot of essence in that it shows that there was something, a spirit reflecting something else, and the two coming together, which we saw. The earth is mentioned here, the darkness, which would probably denote air, um, the spirit, of course, which perhaps is fire or darkness, air, or fire. And spirit, I had it on here. I might have wiped it off already, but let's see. So we had earth, darkness, spirit, and water. We had those four elements right there in Genesis of chapter 2, chapter 1, verse 2. Okay, so I think that really tells us a lot. And we see how we have that the word, the function of moved and void and waters, each equal 5, which shows us that, of course, the Spirit of God that moved, the act of moved equals 5, the void equals 5, waters equals 5. So there were elements there, and we see how God also reflects in God and without. So we were questioning what was within, and of course, earth and form. So there were quite a few things that we have learned through this chapter of Genesis of chapter 1 and only verse 2. I think so far I have done about, I don't know, maybe 6 presentations on that verse because I think it holds the key. Of course, key is number 5, and waters is in there. So, of course, and waters being there, waters is going to seep through the cracks, and that's what we want to see. Where the cracks are, of course, God is perfect. God would not create an earth with cracks, but at least the waters will show us what we need to know. Okay, thank you. I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope you have found it fun. If you have, click the like button and share because this is how we do it. We share to actualizing self-full love. Stay blessed, stay bright, be filled, be ignited because we are planting new seeds. Now, I say this remembering that the act of eating or eat or ate equals 8. So let's share of that 8 by like God did, and it was with and with that. So we share. Don't know how we're gonna do this, but it's like saying, for instance, do like Mother Eve. If it's delicious, share it. Thank you.